the meeting to order. Business, can we all stand for the pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a roll call, please.
Justin Rock.
Here.
David Glabe.
Here.
Wayne Dudo.
Here.
Nicole Howard.
Here.
Molly King is absent, excused. Marianne Niesner.
Here.
Denise Wheeler.
Here.
Thank you. The City Council will meet in executive session pursuant of ORS 192.6602D to conduct a deliberation with persons of designation by the government by body to carry on labor negotiations after the City Council adjourns this meeting. Next business item will be agenda approval.
There are no changes, Mayor.
Thank you. Consent agenda, looks like we have two items on there. Approval of regular session minutes, February 1st, 2023, and ratifying MOU between city and IAFF, Local 924, extended response distance. Entertain a motion.
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented. Second.
We've had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. All right, now we are going to move on to public comment. To start off, we do have a presentation by Nick Bora of the Emergency Manager, Union County, and Will Crippen, coordinator of the North Blue Mountain Strategy Partnership, Oregon Department of Forestry, regarding air quality community response plan grant. You have 15 minutes.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and councilors. So I'm Nick Bora. I'm the Union County Emergency Manager. And this evening, I'll be presenting to you for information purposes, a plan that the county is currently working on. And this is a community response plan to smoke impacts for air quality concerns. So this plan is funded by the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, and the writer of this plan is Mr. Crippen with Oregon Department of Forestry. So the agencies that we're actively collaborating with as we put this plan together is the Center for Human Development. Kyle Carpenter with the City of Grande also has been a key part of that team, along with the U.S. Forest Service, Oregon Department of Forestry, and obviously the county. So at a very high level, I'll let Willie get into the details, but at a high level, this plan, the purpose is to identify smoke-sensitive populations in LaGrande and Union County, and also solicit input from them. We sent out a survey to determine what their needs and preferred means of communication were. Also looked at potential mitigation actions when we do experience a reduced air quality due to smoke. And then also potentially looking in those mitigation actions, air quality shelters, different facilities that could potentially, if they were interested, be used in that manner, and some opportunities maybe from grants or other sources of funding to improve their abilities to function as an air quality shelter. Once this plan is completed, if the city were to choose to adopt it, then it also would allow some additional administrative flexibility in regards to Oregon Department of Environmental Quality rules in regards to some air quality regulations. So for the sake of time, I'll let Mr. Crippen with Oregon Department of Forestry go into a little bit more detail about the plan. Hopefully all of you have some printouts and handouts in front of you. So I'll hand it off to Mr. Crippen and let him explain the plan in a little bit more detail.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nick. Mayor, councilors, appreciate the time to talk to you today. I think Nick gave you a pretty good introduction on what we're looking at doing. I'll introduce myself real quick. I'm Willie Crippen. I work for the Oregon Department of Forestry, and I'm a coordinator for what we have a Northern Blues Cohesive Strategy Partnership, and that's across Northeast Oregon, Southeast Washington, working towards the goals of our strategic wildfire strategy for increased fire resilience, fire adapted communities, and response. So that's part of the partnership that I work with. As through that partnership, I'm helping with this plan, working under the grant from DEQ to put this plan together. I think we gave you some slides. I'll go through those real quick, and then we can open it up for questions. Elements of the CRP is to discuss and look at what our vulnerable populations are, how we can inform those. Communications is a key part of this plan. Options that we have if we do have smoke events, be it wildfire or prescribed fire, and then again, back to that communications. That's a big part of this plan, is how do we communicate information such as air quality, what to do in the event of a smoke, what's going to be happening, timing on that. A quick bit of history, and a lot of this comes back to Kyle in the city, that there was, especially in the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of smoke air quality issues in the city of La Grande, hence the air quality program was initiated there in the early 90s. This from that plan came, the phone line program, a lot of emphasis on EPA wood stoves, utilizing gas versus wood for primary heat. So air quality has improved immensely in the city since that time. However, we still have, and on the next page there, that's a pretty busy graph, but it does show in the yellow and red on those graphs. I'm sorry, I don't have it up on the screen, but we have had 7 or 8 incidents in the last 25 years of unhealthy smoke in the city of La Grande. One of those was from a prescribed fire in 2006, and the rest have been from significant wildfires. The last being, well, we had some pretty good smoke last year from the wilderness burns, but the most significant event was 2020 from the Labor Day fires. The next steps, we wanted to share this with you, present the plan, let you know that it's there. We're certainly looking for input. Kyle's been a big part of preparing that plan. And there is an opportunity after this plan is in place, something that we can look at with DEQ, with the city and the county, if we want to approach the opportunity or to look at if requesting from DEQ some exemptions that would give a little more flexibility to the prescribed burn program with some of the air quality standards. But again, that's wide open for discussion as we go down the road. I think that's really what I wanted to say. We want to look for opportunities to do some work on the landscape, and we are in a wildfire environment. To do that, while we still look to protect our community from smoke impacts. But anyway, that's what I got, and open it up for questions or comments.
Can you tell me where you took the readings from? Is it the one that's downtown on the other side of the railroad track, Kyle, or do you know?
They're probably taken from the Willow Street. So we have a quality station over Willow Street.
Oh, okay. So that's where they do.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So you said these ones look like the ones from 2015, 16, 19, 20, 21, 22. Were mostly from forest fires?
Yes, they were. 2015, we had the Cornet Windy fires in Baker County. 17 was California and Canada. Shared their smoke with us for several days there. 2020, of course, was the Labor Day, and then we had the Sturgill, Nebo fires last summer.
Oh, yeah.
Just so I'm clear, the idea here is that we would apply for a waiver, an exemption of some type to allow for prescribed burns to occur on land to limit the exposure to a more egregious situation from a wildfire. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct. The goal for land management agencies is to utilize prescribed fires to minimize the impact of large wildfires. That's part of landscape restoration. One of the tools is prescribed burning. From prescribed burning, of course, there is smoke, which is a very negative impact. And this plan is looking at, how can we mitigate the impacts of those smokes while still allowing for prescribed fire and providing for the health of our community. And it's a as we get closer, we can get look a lot more at those numbers. It's not a big jump on what they would be asking to do, but it does give some flexibility there.
And what action would the council be required to take on something like that? Is that just an approval, or would you be seeking funding from the city to try to accomplish that?
So the only action down the road from the council would be to decide whether or not the council would like to request this exemption from the DEQ and going with the plan to DEQ to see if they would approve that exemption. And it's an exemption at the 1 hour level. So it exempts smoke for a 1 hour time period or a small bump in a 24-hour time period. I don't want to, yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
I could have missed it, but were you talking about how letting the residents know about the quality of the air in part of this plan?
That's a big part of the plan, thanks,
Okay.
is looking at ways to communicate with the public on smoke events, infiltration, grants that are available. So this is much more than just wildfire prescribed fire smoke. That's opens up possibilities for us to be putting into deferred grants from DEQ and other sources. This plan would be part of that package as we prepare grants, and we've identified in our plan and amongst our groups what some of those opportunities could be. And I will throw in real quick that Baker County and Wallowa County have these plans completed already, and my vision is to work as an area, not just individual counties, but to work as an area, perhaps through maybe our interagency dispatch center, to have this information consolidated into something a little more easily accessible. There's a lot of information out there on social media, but it's hard to, you really have to hunt and peck to find it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions? Thank
Okay.
you for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Any questions? Our names and emails are there. Be glad to answer any more.
Thank you. At this time, this is our portion of the meeting where we do public comments. Any individual that would like to step to the podium and address the council on non-agenda items, please step to the podium when addressing the council, either under public comments or regarding to agenda items. Please go to the podium and clearly print your first and last name, address, and the sign-in sheet that is at the podium to ensure that we will spell your name correctly in the minutes. State only your name before speaking to the council. Time will begin when you start. And with that, we do have a 3-minute time limit for individuals that do want to speak. So at this time, anybody that would like to address the council is the time.
City Council. My name is Nelson Tracy. I'm a filmmaker from Los Angeles, and I just spent the last 2 months here in La Grande making a movie called Breakup Season. We brought a crew of about 30 people from Portland and Los Angeles here, as well as 6 actors, and we had the time of our lives. And I want to thank all of you and the city of La Grande, so many individuals who came either directly from the city or from nonprofit organizations related. We had a lot of volunteers involved. We had hotels, catering, lodging, the university. So many people came forward and stepped up to help to make this movie happen. The big part is done, the filming's done, but as you know, movies don't happen the day the camera stops rolling. So this will be a continued process, and what we hope to do, I'll be back a couple times later this year to do a few pickup related work with this project. And then we hope to have a big premiere here in town and share the film with everyone. But truly, as a guy I'm a city kid. I grew up in Denver. I live in Los Angeles, and cities have a lot of more bureaucratic stuff to get through to make a movie happen. Whereas in LeGrande, we were able to do just about everything and anything we wanted to do with, just pure flying colors and support. So I just want to say thank you so much. I love LeGrande. I first came here for the film festival in 2019, and I've now come back 3 or 4 times. I've lost count at this point. But yeah, thank you so much. This won't be the last time you see me, but I just wanted to kind of introduce myself and put a name to the face. So thank you all. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you for coming to our community. We appreciate it.
And I'm glad it snowed for you.
Yeah.
I know.
Hello.
Good evening, Sheriff Owen.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple proposals. Can I give you guys a copy of that? Is it okay to give that to you now? Then you can reference kind of what I'm talking about, but.
Oh, yeah, sure will.
Number 1 and take number 2.
Okay, you bet. There you go. Okay.
Again, my name is Sheriff Clayton. I live at 204 Scorpio Drive here in the Grande. And I wanted to talk about, well, I'm just going to start talking. I wrote it down and I don't want to get off track and I don't want to go over time here. So in September of 2021, I sent out an RFP to several different companies asking for assistance with establishing a new law enforcement center in Union County, a facility that would encompass all the entities such as CHD, the Grande Police Department, Dispatch, DA's office, Juvenile, PMP, and the Union County Sheriff's Office to include the jail. October 21, we received 2 proposals. I asked the stakeholders to assist in the scoring of each proposal. Of the 2, the McKinsey Group of Portland was unanimously chosen. That's what you see in front of you today. January 22, shortly after we scored those, I received a proposal from McKinsey for the requested services totaling $181,160. Shortly thereafter, I held a meeting with the stakeholders to discuss going ahead and asking for funding from each entity. At the end of the meeting, I was met with strong opposition from Mr. Strope. To put it bluntly, I was all but laughed at and told I had so much more to work on before we could go forward. This was frustrating, but eye-opening at the same time. I quickly recognized that some stakeholders might have different ideas of what moving forward looked like, to which I accepted and moved on exploring the possibilities of ARPA funding or any available grant opportunities. I soon discovered that the ARPA funds would not cover the scope of this project, could not be used, and our needs didn't fit the scope of most of the grants that we were looking for. April of 2022, I met with the McKinsey Group. I explained the struggles that I was facing with the funding of the project and asked for a complete site evaluation of the Grande Police Department, Dispatch, Union County Sheriff's Office, the jail, PMP, and juvenile facilities. I felt it was a needed step to educate ourselves on the exact shortcomings and problems we, the stakeholders, were facing and bring some public awareness along with viable needed information to all involved. McKinsey provided that estimate with a cost of $39,983. That's for everybody included. Again, I was faced with budget constraints and the perceived unwillingness to partner in this task from the city of LeGrande. I spoke off and on with Chief Bell over the next few months, expressed that I was struggling to find funding with the project, and told him that things have basically been put on hold. Fast forward a few weeks ago, I read an article online that the city of LeGrande was looking at building a new police station downtown. As you can imagine, this was not a complete surprise, but it concerned me. I have heard rumors of the city wanting a place downtown for many years and even looking at a suitable location recently. I watched a recent council retreat online and heard some concerning statements. In response to a question that was asked, what happened to working with the county on a new facility, Mr. Strope responded by saying, I don't want to eliminate the county, but we're not leaning that way at this time. In the same conversation, Chief Bell stated he did not want a jail downtown, which I agree with. I also heard discussion of using existing urban renewal funding to foot the bill with an idea of an underlevy to replace those funds. So a couple weeks ago, I reached out to McKinsey and requested an update to identify pricing increases or any changes over the last few months, along with a new estimate excluding the city entities. McKinsey got back to me and stated they needed a few days and would get that over to me. A few days go by, and they call me back apologizing for the wait and lack of response to my phone call and email. I stated I did not call or email since we last talked. They said they must be confused. And who was Gary? I said, Gary is the chief of police. Why? Well, we received an email from him a couple of days ago, right after you and I talked, and he was asking for everything that you had asked for last year on the second proposal, but only for his side of the building. As you can imagine, this was concerning to me. I don't understand how the city could justify doing this, spending twice the money less than a year later. Why would you do this on your own when I've been more than willing to share the cost? Now, I know Gary is an employee and answers to Mr. Strope, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for Mr. Strope. And I mean no disrespect to him when I say that he has ran this show for years. I've always listened to him speak. I've sat in on multiple meetings and been in awe of how he can always cater a conversation or swing a decision to meet his interests. It's truly an art that has been perfected over the many years of the service to the city. But when it's time for you, the council, to answer the taxpayers, what are you going to say? How can decisions like this possibly be justified if you have the best interests of the citizens in mind? I beg you to ask the questions to people outside of City Hall. I'm the chief law enforcement officer in this county, and believe it or not, I'm extremely approachable and 100% transparent on everything that I do. Please know that my door is always open and I'm always willing to answer any questions you or anybody else might have. Before I go, I wish to caution you, if you choose to go forward on your own, I ask that you work harder at being a larger community partner and not focus solely on the city of Grande when it comes to law enforcement. I guarantee all of you right now that a new law enforcement facility will only be achieved if we work together. This is not the city versus the county. Between Gary and myself, this county has never had a sheriff and a chief that have had a stronger relationship or a better ability to work together as a team. And I'll finish with this. Our state as a whole is in a crisis when it comes to mental health, addiction, and crime. We need you people that make the decisions to look past personal agendas and lack of transparency and ask the hard questions of what is best for the whole county. Think outside the box of this building. I don't, and I won't ever speak for Chief Bell, but I know Gary and I will give you everything we have as individuals, but as a team, we can give you and the others so much more. That's all the time. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Sheriff Miller? Robert?
I don't.
Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate your time.
Hi, my name's Wally Waller. That's tough to follow. I wish everybody the best of luck working through that. I'm here today in a different fashion with the Grande Rotary, and because I got inspired this morning by some speeches at the Union County Commission meeting, I decided to do a little bit more oration than just tell you about the daddy-daughter dance. So, community. Community is where a bunch of people are looking out for each other. Communities are built on opportunities to see each other deeply. Community is where we enter into a relationship with each other, advocating for happiness. Happiness is an individual emotion that grants us strength to extend ourselves to others, strengthening communities, and establishing an overall sense of joy. Joy is the union, pun intended, of selves that exist inside moments of fellowship where we forget, where we end, and others begin. I am here to invite you and everyone watching in the room to join us for some joyfulness. Be encouraged. I have watched the Grande Rotary be the reason someone had a brighter day. Be the reason a personal challenge was overcame. Be the reason a community leader was supercharged. I have watched the Grande Rotary be the reason a family bond was stronger. And the bond between fathers and daughters plays a key role in psychological development and can help young ladies and daddies develop a greater sense of self. Be the reason this Saturday for the 8th annual Daddy-Daughter Dance at Central School, brought to you by the Grande Rotary. The theme is Enchanted Fairy Forest, which will look incredible. And please visit legranderotary.org for details or call 541-963-2262. And I have 30 seconds if you have any questions.
Thank you for coming.
All right.
Appreciate it.
My name's Matt Carpenter. I live at 402 3rd Street. I'm here to do just a quick update on the warming shelter concern my wife brought up last month. But before, Wally, thanks for the inspiration. Got a 6-year-old planning on going to the dance. I want to live without think of some of us say this. Think the neighborhood is very aware that the city council can do nothing in terms of the zoning of where the warming shelter is located now because of Oregon law. We totally get that. It's fine. What we would like to propose, but we also heard from you, or at least I thought I heard from you, that you didn't think that that was maybe the best place for it if the law didn't exist for it to be there. So what I would like the council to consider is the idea that the Oregon law is, at least the way I read it, it provides provision for a warming shelter somewhere. But knowing some of the ambitions of the shelter, they would like to see it expanded to a year-round use facility and including day use resourcing to the homeless in our community. I'm not entirely sure that the Oregon law intends for that. I think it grants provision for the shelter to be placed in any zone. So what I'd like the council to consider is potential legislation that would limit the scope of the shelter to the language within the Oregon law and limit it from expanding even broader its footprint in our neighborhood. I am not disagreeing that we need a warming shelter. I just don't think our neighborhood or any neighborhood is the best place for it. I wonder if limiting it to the legislation that Oregon law gives it provision for would then encourage it to look for maybe a better place where it could expand its hopes and dreams in that footprint. That's what I got.
Appreciate it.
Sure. Questions? Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment for this evening? All right. We will get into our public hearings. At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask the city recorder to read the rules of order in its entirety.
These rules of order are applicable to the public hearing for proposed ordinance regulating conduct in city parks in LeGrand. This is a legislative hearing, therefore councilor ex parte or pre-hearing contact does not apply. The hearing will proceed as follows. The mayor will open the public hearing and request the staff report. The mayor will then accept public testimony relating to the matter. There is a 3-minute time limit for testimony. The order of testimony this evening will begin with that of proponents, those in favor, followed by opponents, those opposed, and ending with those neutral to the ordinance being adopted. The proceedings are being electronically recorded to be converted to written minutes. When testifying, please step to the podium and clearly print your name and address on the speaker sign-in sheet. Please state only your name before addressing the council. Members of the City Council may ask questions of the staff at any time, and subsequent to deliberation, the mayor will close the hearing.
Hello, Stu.
Mayor and Council. This is a follow-up from our regulating camping on public property and prohibiting camping in certain areas ordinance that you've seen in the last couple of months. We took the opportunity to bring both ordinances up to state law at the same, one following the other. So this, you can see the highlighted changes. There are a few that are significant. One is the prohibition of alcohol in city parks. Many people might think that LaGrande city parks are already prohibited with alcohol use, but they're not. Tobacco and other products are prohibited, but not alcohol. The chief and I, along with our Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission, detailed this ordinance. We vetted it. We spent some time, lots of time, talking about the current concerns that we've experienced over especially the last couple of years with law enforcement and park staff, and also the concerns that we've had from the community, right? I did receive 2 phone calls from the Morgan Lake neighborhood, worried that this ordinance would be things like hard to enforce at Morgan Lake. This does include Morgan Lake. This includes all city parks. We didn't put any provisions differently in the Morgan Lake section of the ordinance, as you can see. I talked to those people. They said this ordinance made perfect sense to both of them. They didn't have any concerns after I explained it to them, but they did want me to bring that up tonight. The other than alcohol use, there's some language that we cleaned up. There's some added language about litter, garbage, sewer, and waste. There's some more specific language about some other minor things, and also the other most significant change is the trespass. Basically, what's the word? Compounding on itself. I don't know what the word is. Anyway, increasing penalties for repeat offenders that trespass. How about that? Well, and that's under the trespass section. So since I stumbled through all that, Mr. Mayor and Council, are there any questions?
No, you did good.
Stu, just a quick one. It looks like you're allowing hooved animals up at Morgan Lake.
Right.
So do you want to do that?
That was not changed. That's been there as far as I know since I've been here.
Okay.
We haven't had any issues
Right.
that I'm aware of. It also says that they have to stay on the roads and they can't just go anywhere.
Right.
Go ahead, Dave. A wild goat.
You can walk your goat.
Does it have a hoof? I mean, sure.
I'm all right with that.
But didn't it say that you were prohibiting hoofed animals in Riverside?
Well, I'm sure it says that. I don't know. That is not on my radar. I'm sorry. I've not dealt with that
The only
issue.
reason I said that is because, I know that horse carriage goes through the park.
But it had exceptions.
Yeah.
You just have to get approval for the.
You didn't see this line at all.
I mean,
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about hoofed animals.
You thought you said about beer.
I mean, alcohol, nah, we're worried about hoofed animals. Okay. All right.
I remember reading it thinking, oh, can he not drive his carriage in there anymore?
You just have to keep you on your toes.
You can't be drunk on a horse.
Clearly sideways.
Sorry.
Back to the specific language in the ordinance before the council. Are there any specific paragraphs or sections that the council had specific questions about the proposed changes before the mayor opens it up for public testimony?
I thought it looks good.
And I think it's a good idea to prohibit the alcoholic beverages. I think that's a good idea.
So I just wanted to clarify, there was some question about, well, what does that mean if somebody has a red Solo Cup in the park? Of course, police don't have the resources to patrol every red Solo Cup, right? However, it does give them a resource and a tool to use if there are complaints about people that are acting not appropriately in a park, right?
All right, thank you,
Okay.
Stu. This time I would like to invite public testimony. We will start off with in favor. Opposition? Neutral? All right, show there was none. I would like to invite councilor discussion.
Good updates.
Perfect. At this time, can I have the city recorder to read the proposed ordinance for the first time by title only?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, regulating conduct in the city parks of LaGrande, Oregon, setting operating policies, providing penalties, and repealing ordinance number 3237, Series 2017, and all other ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and declaring an effective date.
Thank you. Announce that the public hearing is continued till April 5th, 2023, at which time the proposed ordinance is scheduled to be read a second time by title only, considered for adoption. All right. We will move on to our next one. We will open the public hearing and ask the city recorder to read the rules of order in its entirety.
The City Council will conduct one quasi-judicial public hearing. These rules of order are applicable to the public hearing to consider rezoning property from interchange commercial to general commercial, file number 040122, applicants Kager Brasseth and City of LaGrande. The hearing will proceed as follows. The mayor will request the staff report, which includes applicable criteria and standards for the issues under consideration in the application. Subsequent to opening the public hearing, the mayor will accept testimony relating to the application. The mayor may state a time limit for testimony. All testimony must be directed toward the applicable criteria. Oregon land use law requires that all issues raised by a participant during the hearing must be sufficiently clear and specific to allow the hearing body and other parties an opportunity to respond to those issues. Failure to raise the issues during the hearing may invalidate future appeal. The proceedings are being electronically recorded to be transcribed into written minutes. When testifying, please step to the podium and state your name. Before leaving the podium, please complete the speaker sign-in sheet. The applicant will be invited to speak first, followed by proponents, then by opponents, and then by parties neutral to the application. An opportunity will be provided to parties to clarify any issues raised or to rebut testimony. Proponents, then opponents will be provided an opportunity to clarify any issues or to rebut testimony. If additional documents or new evidence is introduced during the hearing, any participant may request a continuation of the hearing. Any participant may request that the hearing record be kept open for 7 days to submit additional written evidence or testimony for the purpose of responding to new evidence. Unless waived, the applicant has 7 days to submit a written response. Members of the City Council may ask questions of the staff or hearing participants at any time. The mayor may then close the hearing or continue the hearing at a specified time and place. All decisions must be based on findings of fact from the staff report or evidence and testimony received which relate to the criteria of the land use decision. An appeal of the City Council decision must be made in writing to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals, together with the required fee, within 21 days from the date that the final decision is mailed to the applicant and interested participants. A counselor must declare any ex parte or pre-hearing contact, including the person's name and the nature of the discussion, as well as any site visitations to the area in question. Counselors should declare any personal or financial interests in this matter and may disqualify themselves from participation in the hearing. Does any counselor wish to make a declaration?
I visited the site. I looked at it, but that's all. I didn't talk to anybody.
Does anyone in the audience wish to challenge the right of any counselor to hear this matter? Let the record show that there are no challenges.
Thank you. Good evening, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and
Staff
Council.
report.
Yeah. So in your packet, there's a map. It's on the CAF. There's the same map that's in several places in there. This application started last fall with Kager Brasseth coming to the city asking to rezone his property, which is at the corner of Q Avenue and 21st Street. And that's a property that has had a warehouse type use with a variety of different tenants in it over the years. And since he's acquired it, he's demolished some homes and he's looking to redevelop this with some other commercial type uses. The property is zoned interchange commercial, and that zoning is very specific to highway oriented businesses. And, so it's like fuel stations, hotels, and restaurants and things that cater to highway travelers. And this particular block has a number of uses on it that are not highway oriented, and that is not Kager's ambition for redeveloping his property. And so he came to the city to ask for the rezone to the general commercial zoning, which is consistent with what's around it in the vicinity. And with his request, that kind of, as I looked at the block, it kind of triggered an inquiry with other property owners in that block. And I felt it'd be appropriate to not spot zone his property by itself when there's several other properties adjacent to him that are also occupied and used for purposes that are not interchange related that are in that zoning. And rezoning them to general commercial would resolve their non-conforming elements and bring them into compliance with current code, and it would give them some better opportunities for expansion or changing uses as they decided to relocate. So as I reached out to those property owners, we have 100% support of the property owners within this block. There's a couple of them that did not return my call, but going from a non-conforming to a conforming use is not really a surprise. Why they're not calling, because there's no objection when you're such problem. But anyway, so that's the request that's before you. The review criteria that the city has for considering this request is predominantly focused on comprehensive plan goals and policies. And our goals and policies start with identifying that there's a need to rezone the property, which I think there's several reasons that we're satisfying a need, both with the property owners' desire to develop their properties with commercial uses and resolving non-conforming elements. And then other elements in the review criteria have to do with mitigating or not having adverse impacts. And some of those are transportation related. Some of those are compatibility of uses. And since we're really just rezoning the property to the uses, to fit the uses that already exist there, there are no anticipated adverse impacts with this rezone. So anyway, there are several criteria. Those were all addressed in your packet. Do you have any questions related to the information that's presented to you or the reason why this request is before you?
What some of the properties already grandfathered in is the commercial?
Yeah, the only property that is currently a conforming use is the hotel property, the Sandman Hotel property.
Everybody else has been grandfathered in.
Yeah, all of the other ones are currently grandfathered and will become legal conforming uses with the rezone.
It's currently interchange commercial?
Yes.
So, Mike, am I correct that a couple of these areas are residential?
Two of the properties on the southwest corner are residential homes, and our code does allow for those existing residential homes to remain. We have residential homes throughout our commercial zoning that can flip-flop back and forth between like an office type use or a home, and these are currently residences.
I'm just curious, as I consider adverse impacts, I would be interested to know whether those owners responded to your query about how this would impact them.
They did not. Those are my two owner, or well, it's one owner, but that's my owner that did not respond to my inquiry. But they're going, I mean, those are rentals, but they are going from a non-conforming use to a conforming use, which actually allows them to remain.
Do we know what the intended commercial development is for the applicant?
At this point, I think it's redeveloping that building. I think there's a plan to demolish the existing kind of warehouse structure that's there that has a combination of some small scale manufacturing and some warehouse storage space, and build a new building to kind of house similar uses that are in there. I don't think there's any intent to put a retail type business in there, but there are some small scale manufacturing and some very light commercial related uses that you'd like just having a new building, and building a new building that's not a highway, accommodating a highway oriented business just isn't possible without the rezone.
Any more questions for Mike? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to invite public testimony in favor. Opposition? Oh, okay, in favor. We'll stay with that.
Hi, Roxy Ogilvy. I'm a member of the Planning Commission, and we had discussed this issue at length. And the reason I'm supporting this is my major concern was the houses. It's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, that the residential housing can remain residential, but if someone would like to come in and potentially have a business in one of those houses, it didn't make it, then it still continues to be residential. So those property owners are not losing the right to use that as a residence. Am I correct on that, Michael?
Correct.
Okay, so it's a win-win situation, in my opinion.
Thank you. Any more testimony in favor? Opposition? I'm waiting a little longer that way. I don't skip nobody. Neutral? Show there's none. All right. Invite counselor discussion. No? Okay. If the city recorder can read the proposed ordinance for the first time by title only.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, rezoning property from interchange commercial to general commercial on the zoning map and declaring an effective date.
That was quick. Thank you. The public hearing is continuing till April 5th, 2023, at which time the proposed ordinance is scheduled to be read a second time by title only and considered for adoption. Unfinished business, we have none. We are going to move on to new business.
There you go, man.
So what the new business? Our first one will be authorizing the application for a grant for a pump track at Pioneer Park. And it shows Mr. Stu.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the city's been working with Blue Mountain Single Trails Club for several years now to develop a pump track. What the heck is a pump track? Hence the display. A pump track is a series of bumps or rollers that are paved that create a momentum swing for kiddos that are learning or adults or whoever wants to have fun, right? So the idea is you start on top, you coast down, you have enough momentum to get to the top of the next one, and then you coast down, and so you don't have to pedal at all. That's the theory, right? But it's also, it also has amenities that, what are the walls called, Nicole?
Berms?
No, the wood, like backboard things.
Like a rail?
Sure, I don't know what they're called.
Okay.
Clearly, I'm batting 1,000 tonight, and I tell you, there will be no hoofed animals on this. So What I'm trying to say is there are more features that cyclists can use and kiddos and families can use than just riding up and down the bumps, right? You can see this is located between this existing skate park and the railroad tracks. Currently, there's nothing there except for grass and trees, right? Very important things, but underutilized space. There's an opportunity there to incorporate some of the trees. Not all of them have to come out. That's a new design. The grant that we're asking for you to authorize tonight is through the Oregon State Parks, and they require the council or governing body to pass a resolution authorizing staff to apply for a grant. All the matching dollars for the grant will be provided by the Blue Mountain Single Trails Club and the city in labor and in-kind services, but not cash, most likely. It's not budgeted anyway. The Blue Mountain Single Track Club has been successful on other grants, like a Wild Horse Foundation grant and more, and also with local fundraising efforts and the like, right? So they're up to a dollar amount where they feel like they can meet the match requirement for the construction of this track, which will probably be around the range of $150,000-ish. That's just the installation, not including some of the dirt work and other in-kind support we're receiving from them.
What about maintenance?
Yes.
I was just going to ask for questions.
I did ask. I guess what I thought.
Maintenance will be performed by the city, and I'm sure that if the city needs help, that they could reach out to the Single Track Club. There's a variety of, they have over 100 folks on their board and on their volunteer mailing list. The other part about maintenance is, it looks like, I don't know if this has that. Oh, there's some small spots like right here. Right here, and right here. Right here, and right here. Those spots will be astroturfed because you can't get a mower in there.
I was going
Right.
to say, who's going to mow?
Yeah. We're not going to.
Track's asphalt, so it
Yeah.
should last. 30
Asphalt
years.
and astroturf,
30 years.
30-year lifespan?
Ish.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, great support locally from the track club, and entertain any questions.
Have any plans to try and plant trees that are removed? Can we plant?
Always.
trees to Replace those?
Yeah, our urban forester will make me do that. Yep, always.
Making sure.
Yep.
Did you say you won't have to remove many though?
No, only a couple, I think. There's one corner, it's hard to see on the kind of down on the bottom of that. There's one corner. If you walk out there, it's a lot easier to see, but there's one corner. But we're also going to save one that kind of is an island in the middle, which would be cool.
So we don't have to pay anything.
Right. We're just
Other
doing I'm
than-
doing a little bit of the legwork with the grant.
Uh-huh.
We have to be the applicant because the Single Track Club cannot qualify for a local government grant through Oregon State Parks.
Okay.
Otherwise, so staff time, relocating irrigation, capping irrigation will take time and energy and money. Lots of staff time. It's a significant undertaking, but other than that, no cash is budgeted. So it's really, they brought this project to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission a few years ago, and the commission said, great, if you want to do that, you pay for it and we'll support it, which is what's happening now.
And this is similar to when baseball put in the turf field and we
Yeah,
had
similar,
staff.
similar, very similar.
Like our commitment to it,
Yep.
which was
Yep.
not
Yep.
too much.
Right.
They could still get their regular jobs done.
Very similar.
It's fun.
We just continue to push the envelope with unique amenities like turf fields and pump tracks that not all communities have. Pretty good stuff. Okay.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite public comment.
Hi, my name is still Wally Waller. I wasn't planning on talking about the pump track, but I am pro pump track. You know, I mean, for real, that's really cool. I spent 9 years on the Little Rock Zoo board. And so I think if we look at this kind of development, let's consider some ADA requirements as far as like maybe expanding some of that flat land for wheelchairs. But that's really cool.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to comment? No? All right, council discussion.
I just want to say that I'm a part of that group and I'm writing a lot of these grants and I'm still going to vote on it because I'm not benefiting in any way except for the fact that I will be at the pump track every day when it's built. But aside from that advantage, I'm going to go ahead and vote, but I just wanted you to know that I'm pretty involved. And more stuff for kids to do.
Yeah.
No, I think it's great.
Always nice to have something else for public to do.
Yeah, we need more things like this for our young people. Yeah.
It's not trouble.
I think I want to try it.
No more discussion. Entertain a motion.
I move that the proposed resolution authorizing the city manager to sign the grant application for a pump track be read by title only, put to a vote and passed as presented, and that the city manager be authorized to accept the grant and sign any related documents if awarded.
No, I'll second.
Perfect. We've had our first and second. Any more
Second.
discussion?
Oh.
Any more discussion? All right. With that, the city recorder to read the proposed resolution by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, authorizing City of LaGrande Parks and Recreation Department staff to apply for a local government grant from the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department for the construction of a pump track at Pioneer Park, authorizing City Manager Robert A. Strope to sign the grant application and any documents related to accepting the grant if awarded.
At this time, we will vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Our next new business will partnership support in LaGrande School District Tiger House Project. And it looks like Mr. Boquist. Can we have the staff report, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. It looks like I'm probably on my own tonight because my school district partners didn't show up. So that'll be donuts or something, I'm sure. But anyway, this is a request that the school district came to the city and asked the city to be a partner in their Tiger House project. Over the last, I don't know how many years, but at least a couple, the school district has been working to get a career tech program underway that engages students in various trades. And this particular program gets those students engaged in the construction industry. And where students, or the school district through this program anyway, they've got a teacher that is going to be kind of managing this construction program. And they've partnered with contractors and drafters and a number of different folks to build two houses. The school has acquired a piece of property that they are getting ready to divide into two parcels and build two duplexes on them. With the potential that those could be further divided in order to be essentially townhouses anyway, where each one could be sold independently should they decide to go that direction. Anyway, through the construction of these homes, the students would be engaged in swinging hammers and learning how to build homes. So when they, I guess, get out of school, if they choose to get into the construction field, at least they have some experience. And so the school district asked for the city's partnership in this, and our role would not be to provide them any funding, but instead to waive fees that they would have to pay to the city through building permitting or public works or planning for their various projects. And we've, through the various departments, we've estimated roughly $28,800 worth of fees that would likely be due for both of the duplex structures. And we'd like to waive all of those fees for the school district as our partnership share, with the exception of our park system development charge and a state surcharge fee that we have to pay anyway to the state. And I guess with that, I can answer some questions. I was hoping to pawn the rest of the conversation off to the school district because I'm not as deeply familiar with their program as I'd like to be for answering your questions. But
Would the property be able to stay on the tax rolls since it would belong to the school?
yeah, that's the intent is that they will, once these houses are built, they will sell them. And they will then be on the tax rolls, and these houses kind of happen to fit the price range and the niche of housing that our housing study identifies we have our greatest need, and so that's why, at least from a staff's perspective, that's why we support this, is that it is providing housing that we're trying to promote and encourage. So. And the part of the reason with the potential future partitioning into a townhouse type environment where each unit can be sold separately, it's that just if the school district chooses to do that rather than selling a duplex as a duplex, because it ends up being more of an investment property in that sense. If they were to split it, then they could be individually owned and potentially could reach a market of home buyers in an affordability level that a typical single family home might not accommodate.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's been 30 years or more since they had a program like this. When we first moved here, they had a program like this, where they built one, I think it was on 2nd Street somewhere. So
Yeah, so I would anticipate we'll probably get another request from them in the future. I don't know how far down the road, because I don't know how long it's going to take for them to actually finish this project and sell these houses. But the intent is the money they make from selling these homes would pay for the program to continue. Because this is, right now, they only have seed money to start the program, not continue it. And so hopefully by selling these homes, it'll keep this program going for years to come.
I have 2 questions. The first question is for the students that are going to be working on that, where will the liability land? Would it go with the school district or how would that be?
I'm
case of an
probably
accident.
not the one to answer that, but I
Okay.
would bet that it's part of the school program. And so
Okay.
everything that is
School.
part of the school would be under the school's umbrella.
Okay, other question is I know we haven't had it for a while, a program like this, but who came to you specifically for this? It had to be at least an individual.
Oh, well, the individual that came initially
Uh-huh.
was George Mendoza, the
Oh.
superintendent.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, and so, he's been very passionate about this and getting this underway, and and so that's kind of, I don't know, I think he's the driving force behind this, so.
I just thought it was a brilliant idea and could be self-sufficient.
well, it's teaching kids how to do things that they
A trade,
the
yeah.
skills that they have lost. I mean, and they're not learning somewhere
Right.
else. in the
Well,
world.
we learned in high school, but
Yeah.
nobody else. Yeah. Yeah.
Mike, just so the way I read this, we're approving this one development project. So if they, come around and want to do this again, we would approve that separately. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah, so after these 2 homes are completed and they come back again with a future project, they'll need to ask again.
If I could, Mayor, just interject, just to be very clear, the council's not approving the project itself. It will still have to go through the building permitting process and all of that, and the land use for the splitting of the parcel. It's just a fee waiver portion.
Thank you, Robert. Any more questions for Mike? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
This time I'd like to invite public comments. None? All right. Counselor discussion. Any more discussion needed?
I think it's a great program. I really think it will help kids and teach them some skills that they might not receive otherwise.
I agree. Entertain a motion?
I move that the city of LaGrande provide partnership support to the LaGrande School District Tiger House project by waiving approximately $26,063 of city permitting and development fees.
I'll second.
Perfect. We have a motion and a second. Any more additional council discussion? Those none. At this time, I would ask for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. All right. Our next resolution is establishing a lien on real property Mr. Boquist.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is a longtime nuisance property that probably been years in the making, but beginning at the, I think, February-ish or so of last year is when the city first started engaging through code enforcement. And last fall, the problem got so big that we ended up hiring contractors to clean up this property. It had mountains of garbage, inoperable vehicles and motorhomes, we contracted with Waste Pro, who hauled away, I think it was 6 20-yard dumpsters of waste, which is, roughly 10 or so dump truck loads of garbage. Anyway, but we spent, was it $9,200 or so on abatement, which includes both towing and waste disposal. And that's money that the taxpayers, I guess, paid for this cleanup. And so we'd like to put a lien on this property so we can recoup those funds at the time that this property transfers ownership or any kind of a sale occurs. And so this is kind of a routine request. Usually you see these for smaller things like weed abatement and those kind of things over the years, but this is one of our largest ones. And just so you know, this is an ongoing problem, and we've abated this property again since this time. And so you'll see me again here in about maybe 2 months or so with another request for a second lien. And hopefully I won't be back for a third. So
So is there anyone living there?
oh yeah. Yeah. This is probably where all of our downtown folks are. This is kind of a homeless encampment anyway. And the property is going through a probate process right now. And we're hopeful that that'll resolve some of this, but
So owners deceased, people took advantage and are.
yeah, we have a combination of some squatters and some other family members living there, but it's going through a probate to hopefully get those folks out of there, get the property cleaned up, and we're hopeful there's a long-term solution, but we're going through the legal process right now with the city attorney to kind of help move that along.
Is there any other liens on the property then that you know of?
Not that I know of for city liens, but there may be. It's yeah, I'm not really tracking that, but this will be the first city lien that I'm aware of.
But we could be way down on the list with other ones in front of us.
I don't know. I suspect at this point we might be near the top of the list. So yeah, I think we're the only ones so far that have notified their probate attorney that we have a claim that we'd like paid. So.
Any more questions for Mike? Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, I'd like to invite public comments.
In reference, Cody Bowen, reference to that property, a little more history on that. The mother of the 2 boys, she passed away and left the house to them. One of the boys has kind of removed himself from that property. The other boy is suffering from addiction. He recently checked himself into an in-house treatment over in Pendleton, partially with his family, partially with outpatient stuff. The other brother is fully employed, who works at Anthony Lakes right now. And he has reached out to our offices and requested us to assist with trespassing and keeping an eye on the place, if not keeping an eye on it, but giving it a little more attention. As Mike said, it has been an absolute disaster in there. It's been a source of a lot of what we would refer to as a trap house, a lot of just drug use, people squatting, sleeping. The power's been off a few times, the water's been off a few times, and they're building fires in the back garage and stuff. So it is a terrible eyesore place. About 2 weeks ago, we were approached by the one gentleman that is gainfully employed, but is out of town 5 days a week, and he cannot keep people out of there. They just keep showing up. So he'll come home, he'll call, say there's people trespassing. We'll go down there and we'll, help him, assist him, get those people out of there. But as you know, the expenses are piling up. There is another RV trailer. He came home today, I believe, and noticed there was another RV trailer parked there on the property. So he's trying his best, but he's pretty much just washed his hands of it because he can't keep the transient folks out of there. So, but I know that there is one brother that is, he's trying, but he's way over his head on it. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any more public comment? No? Counselor discussion? I think this is a big issue, and do I have any good answers? No. And I appreciate the sheriff and the chief, all the work that you guys do. Because I know the neighborhoods it's not easy. It really is not. But I just wanted to say thank you. Any other counselors discussion on this?
It's a tough situation.
It is very. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion.
I move that the proposed resolution establishing a lien for failure to pay the cost of abating a nuisance and land use violation on property located at 1325 T Avenue be read by title only, put to a vote, and pass. Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? This time, can the city recorder read the proposed resolution by title only?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, establishing a lien on real property for failure to abate outdoor storage nuisances and land use violations.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. All right, our next one is a resolution to accept sidewalks LID number 22-067 final study and report and establish a public hearing date. Mr. Carpenter.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors. So as the mayor kind of summarized there, this is the first step of 3 in accepting the sidewalk LID that we ran last year. If you remember, this is the program that we put out there where we have a contractor on call basically for city services, where when we do a project like a sewer tap or water tap, we'll call them in to replace the concrete. Those services are available to the citizens to replace sidewalks, driveways, things in front of their house. It'll be financed through the program, and then the citizen then repays over a term back to the city into the program. This is the final report, which outlines what was spent through the program last year. There was only 2 users last year. It was only $7,422. One of the options we're looking for this year's LID, which will come before you in a few months, is maybe having an option to carry that for more than 1 year rather than closing it on $7,400. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Public comment. There's none. Counselor discussion. Entertain a motion.
I'll move that the final study and report for the 2022 citywide voluntary sidewalk LID number 22067 be accepted, and that the proposed resolution establishing a public hearing date be read by title only, put to a vote, and passed.
Second.
We've had a motion and a second. May the city recorder read the proposed resolution by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of LaGrande, Union County, Oregon, establishing a public hearing date for citywide voluntary sidewalk local improvement district number 22067.
Thank you. This time, vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. All right, our next one is the audit, or authorizing myself to sign the audit letter.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What you have before you is a corrective action plan to address the deficiencies in our annual audit this year. Monday night, we had the work session where our auditor did present our audit to us, along with talking about the deficiencies. And I do believe you also had the corrective action plan before you then. So any other questions that you may have? Most of them were asked Monday night, so.
I appreciate the corrective action, so that'll solve it.
Anything further?
Nope. Thank you. Any public comment on our audit? Nope. Council discussion? Entertain a motion.
I move that we authorize the mayor to sign a letter prepared to the State of Oregon Audit Division.
Second. We've had a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right, at this time, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? There is none. All right. The next one is actually for me. Considering appointing a citizen to the Building Board of Appeals. This is a 5-member board which was established by ordinance number 3224, the Dangerous Building Ordinance. Did I say that right?
You did.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Kind of an interesting name, isn't it?
Yes, sir, it is. The proposed of the board is to hear appeals of decisions of the building officials regarding applications of the various building codes and ordinances. Board members shall be individuals who have an interest in construction issues facing the city of LaGrande and who are qualified by experience and training to decide matters pertaining to building construction. The board only meets when there is an appeal. The board currently has 5 vacancies. Mr. Grande has not previously served on this board, but is currently serving on the Air Quality Commission. There are no current seats members serving on the board. The staff has verified that the application meets residence requirements and are eligible to serve on the board. The appointment for Mr. Grande would leave the 4 seat vacants on the board for which the staff will continue to advertise. With that, I will suggest a motion. I move that Terrence Grande be appointed to the Building Board of Appeals for the remainder of a 4-year term expiring December 31st, 2026.
If I could, Mayor, you mispronounced his name as Gandy. There's no R.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll correct the motion.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Second.
Thank you. Any council discussion?
Is this a new board?
No, we've had it for years. I don't recall. I think we've had maybe 1 appeal that was filed and it ended up getting resolved by the state before it went anywhere. It's almost as good as I think the county airport liaison used to be when nothing ever happened until they decided to build something. So
I have a meeting next week.
yeah, I know. This is one where if we did find ourselves in a situation where we had an appeal, we would go out and solicit volunteers so that we could get a board appointed to do it. So, but it doesn't hurt to have someone appointed.
Any more discussion? With that, I will ask for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you. Next one, Union County Commissioner update. Good evening, Commissioner.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to make this quick. Really just a lot of bills of legislation. We're 1 month in, and I believe there's 4 months to go, and I think there's like 4,000 bills. So once again, I'm going to ask if there's any bills pertaining to anything that's going on in LaGrande, please let me know. I can't read them all. And I will be going over to Salem this month, the next month, and the month after. And like I said, I'll be going in probably in between a couple other times. I was asked to come back and testify in House Bill 2635 again, which is very good. That's the fairgrounds bill. So it's still alive. It's going good. They're asking questions. So I think that's a good thing. Very optimistic about it. So fingers crossed. Any other questions? If that, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Staff comments.
Usually you're racing Stu up here, but he's silent. I only have two things. First, want to update on the public comments with the, we'll call it situation on 3rd Street. Working with Chief Bell and Manager Strope, we went through, we are going to have an additional street light installed mid-block in there to provide more lighting up and down the street. So the police have on their patrols located the pole in which they suggested. So now we're working with OTEC to get that light installed. So hopefully within the next few weeks to a month, we should have that up there for you. The other one is, I don't know if you've noticed, we put out a public service announcement. It's been with Elkhorn Media Group, probably on the radio, on our Facebook page. There will be a water outage is what we're going to call it. The water will still be at most of these houses, but it won't have the pressure in which the state requires us to deliver water. There's some valves that we need to replace in the high level system. So if you're not familiar with our water system, there's 2 levels. Down here in the valley, we're on what we call the low level system. The high level system feeds most of those homes on the hills surrounding. It needs a higher pressure to push the water back up, kind of potential energy. If you think of the pump track, it doesn't work because physics says that you can't go down a hill and keep going up hills and go around in a circle. At some point you have to pedal. Same idea. We got to push the water up there. We got to shut that down so we can put those valves in at the hospital. We're thinking we're only going to be out, 4 to 6 hours, but we did get the warning out there. So if you get any calls, this has been planned for, about a year. We didn't know the exact date, but the hospital staff's finally got to the point where they're going to attack the project. So that will happen on Monday. So if there's any calls.
This Monday?
This coming Monday. So the announcements are out there, but wanted to make sure you were notified in case you get any calls.
What's the time?
Starts at 9 a.m. So we don't like to do stuff when school's in from, 8 to 9 o'clock up in that area.
I have another question.
Yep.
That light that's going to be installed, is it going to have an LED light or a regular light?
All the new lights are all LED. So the only place they use the old bulbs is in current fixtures where they're just getting rid of stock.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you, Kyle. Any more staff comments? City Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Just to let you know, and we'll talk about this in an executive session, labor negotiations are ongoing. We've been meeting with Fire and Employees Association, and the attorney that's going to be working with us is back from his trip, so we'll be scheduling something with police in the coming months. Also a suggestion in regards to the rest of the agenda. We're scheduled to do an executive session, and the intent is to go over labor negotiations and then not to return. As I was sitting here, I was thinking it might be better for us at the end of the council and mayor comments to recess the city council meeting and then convene the urban renewal agency so we can get through that agenda and then reconvene the council, conduct the executive session. Otherwise, we're going to have people sitting here for half hour or however long it takes us to go through our labor stuff. And I think it'd be much better, particularly for those that are at home watching, if we did that.
I agree.
So that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Robert. City Council.
Well, I wanted to congratulate Mary Ann. She's Oregon Main Street Leadership on Main Award.
Thank you. That happened in October, though.
Well, they just announced
I
it.
know. I can't believe they put it out twice now. So,
Well, good for you.
yeah.
Proud of you.
Thank you.
So, and I also went to the city banquet, and that was really fun. And it was really nice to see the camaraderie and the longevity of a lot of our city workers. So that was really fun. So enjoyed it. And the symphony's March 15th, if anyone wants to watch the Grand Round Symphony.
Perfect. Thank you. Anybody else? Mary Ann?
No, I don't have any.
Oh, great. That's not what I meant. I just said good. There you go.
I'll just pipe in and second some of Ms. Dudo's comments here. The banquet was great, and I think it made me appreciate the employees that the city has working for them. You know, the staff is just fantastic, and you look at what the city manages to accomplish, and it's pretty remarkable. And I think the good things that go on here are testament to the people that are working hard every day to make our community a better place.
And I would just like to say thank you to the committee that put it on. They did a lot of hard work. It was a great event. Thank you. And with that goes to me, and I am not going to have any comments tonight because we still have a lot to go. So I will recess the city council meeting for now. And we are going to be going, once Brent is ready, into urban renewal. We're not going nowhere. We're in recess.
A brief little break?
If you need a break, we can take 5.
Let's take a 5-minute break.
Okay, thank you.
All right, can I have everybody take their seats, please? I'd like to call to order Urban Renewal Agency regular session. Roll call, please.
Justin Rock,
Here.
David Glabe.
Here.
Corinne Dudo.
Here.
Nicole Howard.
Here.
Molly King is absent excused. Marianne Meisner. Denise Wheeler.
Here.
Thank you. All right. Agenda approval. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
All right, now we'll move on to consent agenda. Actually, there's just one item on there, and that's approving of regular session minutes, February 1st, 2023.
I'll move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any agency discussion? All right, I will ask for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Perfect. All right, we are going to go into public comment. Anybody would like to speak on any non-agenda items? Now is time to do it. So, none. Thank you. Public hearings. I'm not trying to rush. I'm just getting going. All right, we actually don't have any public hearings, no unfinished business. New business, considering approval of recommendation changes to trade sector business traction incentives program. Mr. Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. We actually have two actions before you tonight. This first one is probably the more complicated because we're creating something new here. At our January 25th retreat, and following that at the February 10th meeting with the Urban Renewal Advisory Commission, we had discussed the opportunity to combine what has historically been the traded sector incentive that we've had in place with the call for projects that has been designated for the LeGrand Business and Technology Park. We've had limited use of applicants for the business park, specific call for projects. And as we looked at that particular incentive and the opportunity to combine it with the traded sector, there were a number of advantages there. And so what we've done is presented to you in your packet a proposal that combines those two. I don't know that I'll go through this word for word, but I'll be happy to walk through some of the highlights and answer whatever questions that I can. I will warn you, if you give me a really challenging question, I may have to defer to the district manager, but I'll do my best to answer those that I can. So the first thing is, again, the purpose here is really to provide a cash incentive for new high-quality job producing business and investments in the district. We also realized that over the last couple of years, while we have slowly started to see new ownership of a number of the lots at the business park, we had not had a lot of use of that business park call for projects incentive. So combining those two, we created some new criteria there. So one of the biggest changes in the criteria was that for these now combined, this new combined incentive is the projects can now be submitted at any time during the year. So under our previous policies, all of our funding allocation was done at the same cycle as our call for projects. So this gives us the opportunity to look at a project that might come in the end of summer or October, and rather than say, well, we'd love to help you, come back in March when we open the call for projects, we can respond in more real time. So that's our first major change. So this particular combined incentive maintains the ability for a project that's non-traded sector in the business park to still apply for funding up to $100,000, and they would use the same call for projects applications that are currently in place for that. What this does now, and if you'll look here on page 2, item 6.3, we set up the criteria for projects to meet the following criteria would be eligible for higher funding levels identified below. So projects that are in the traded sector, and we simplified that definition. So it really is, they export at least 50% of their goods and services outside of Union, Baker, Grande, Wallowa, and Umatilla counties. So it has to be somebody that exports beyond the region. And projects must create at least 3 new permanent jobs and employ new employees at or above the average wage in Union County. That average wage will be indexed to the WorkSource Oregon's average wage for Union County. So for 2022, which is where the 2023 wage would be indexed, is $49,563 annually, or $23.83 per hour. So you would have to meet those requirements to be eligible. We kept a lot of the existing language in there requiring preferences for projects that would locate in the business park. There's not a lot of changes in this next section. As we move over to page 4, again, if we're talking now about the traded sector, which could happen anywhere within the urban renewal district, we do maintain a lot of the same language in terms of prohibited use of funds. We made some minor changes on interior improvements that are eligible. And you'll see those listed there. Funding information for traded sector on page 5. We cleaned that up significantly. So you'll see that to receive the traded sector funding, the project must have a minimum total cost of $500,000. So we're primarily targeting larger investment opportunities, must be considered that traded sector that we defined earlier, and then meet the minimum wage requirement for jobs created. We also limited, while we would do, there is up to 400,000, available. Our match is limited to 1/3 of total project cost, not to exceed that 500,000. So on the next page, we got it a little more complicated, and we'll try to walk you through this. So one of the things is item D, the amount of funding shall be determined on a case-by-case basis using the following guidelines. So again, non-traded sector projects located at the Grande Business Park would still be eligible for up to that 100,000. But for the traded sector or for projects outside of the business park, they would be eligible based on this matrix that you see. And so the matrix, if you start on the left, so if we had a $500,000 project creating 3 jobs, we would contribute, or they would be eligible for up to $100,000. If they added a 4th job at qualifying wage levels, they could proceed up to $125,000. And as you go across, the amount of eligibility increases with either the total cost of the project or with the total cost of the jobs. And we got a little complex with this matrix, but we wanted to make sure that we were providing opportunity for, in some cases, let's say it's a telecommunications company that wants to come in, and they're doing basically a data server. It's going to score pretty high in terms of capital investment, but long term, it's probably going to have a pretty small number of jobs. So how do we rank that and compare that to somebody that's going to come in? Maybe their building's only going to cost $1 million, but they're going to have 15 people working there. So this matrix allows us to basically assign a weight to both the capital improvement investment in property improvement and consequently the value to the district in terms of additional tax revenue from that property investment. But also we can weight that against the number of jobs. And whether those one side or the other, that goes up or down, we can then identify where their eligibility would stay. So it's still a little complicated. I'm sure we'll have a lot of fun working through it with the first application. So again, we, under item 4 on this same page, we did reiterate some new language on all required permitting being required to be completed prior to commencing work. This is cleanup language based on some issues we've had. We'll continue to maintain some progress payments available. We're still looking at these being reimbursable. We do clarify that projects requiring a permit of occupancy will not be deemed complete and eligible for final payment until that permit is approved. Again, kind of cleaning up language based on some issues that we have had in past projects. Clarifying again that at the discretion of the agency, funding may be made in the form of a loan, which would convert to a grant based on retention of those jobs promised to receive funding. So again, if we have a project where we're maybe, they're promising a certain number of jobs, we can approve funding basically as a loan that becomes a grant once those job requirements are fulfilled. So there's a kind of a clawback opportunity if they fail to fulfill the job requirements. So I think those are the big changes that we have to that point. I think if we look on page 9, we again kind of go through, keep a lot of the same language in terms of if there's a change in the scope of work, we're protected there. I think those are the big changes. That's the brief overview. Again, I didn't want to go through word for word the changes, but I'm happy to answer questions. I think we captured fairly well the intent of the Urban Renewal Advisory Committee on the language that need to be changed. So at this point, are there questions from council?
I have one, Timothy.
Yes.
Having sort of been around other agreements that talk about permanent jobs and job creation, the word permanent job, is that have a technical meaning? Because, I mean, in theory, no job is permanent or all jobs are permanent. And also I'm thinking about this issue we've run into in other situations of full-time or aggregating 3 part-time positions to create a full-time position. It's created, monitoring jobs has created a tremendous amount of work for the staff. So I would just want that language to be as tight as possible. I don't know what that means, but that's my question.
Yeah, I can touch on that. The intent is that they are individual jobs. You could have different people running through that, but if you're paying $50,000 a year, that's very different than if you're paying $15 an hour. And the way that I see that coming into play would be if we have one of these, $1 million projects with 8 jobs that's going to get us up into that, multiple thousand, couple $100,000. I think that's where we would end up with an individualized agreement that is a loan that converts to a grant, where they would have to prove that they did in fact maintain them for 5 years, as an example. And again, this is the intent here is it's a case by case. I don't envision that it would be something similar to the other project that you're referring to.
I trust you. I just want to not
Yeah.
end up in that place again.
Right. And what the most likely use of these dollars, in my view, would be something coming into the business park, new construction, where we would likely be a second position lien if we wanted to make sure that we assured that those jobs happened. But you're not going to go in and build out there and not really have nailed down what you're building and the type of jobs that you're creating. So I have a lot less concern about that, but that's something I think that we would really nail down in that agreement before we would say, yes, we're going to fund you for, $400,000.
And my second question is, it looks like on the matrix, you're running from on one end with the lowest investment, 25% up to 30% of the total project cost in terms of what we're willing to give. And that's intentional, I'm assuming.
It's a 1/3, 2/3 minimum match for that.
Okay.
So the matrix is not really tied to that 1/3, and there's no real specific percentage that's tied to there. Quite frankly, I looked at it in terms of a value per job to try to move it up, and then also some kind of logical breaks. But you would not be able to model this matrix and have a uniform formula.
Okay.
Because
Because 4 jobs at $500,000 is 25%. And you're at 1.5 million, 10 jobs, that's 31%. It's fine to have that flux in there. It's not intentionally progressive.
It is not.
Okay.
Trust me, I tried figuring out how to do that, and I came up with some pretty weird numbers at those peaks, and it was like, we want this to convey to a potential applicant a known target. And again, we specifically called them guidelines so that there is some flexibility there. And one other thing that differs in this than the current traded sector is the intent to have the URAC also be part of the review and vote on the approval of the funding. And so I did want to highlight that. That's what we do with the call for projects. And, most likely this will be a one and done, where we would have potentially a large project come in, go through this process one time, and then potentially if the agency wanted to do it, we would then start rebuilding dollars to be able to do it again. We're really taking advantage of the $200,000 that's been sitting there unused in the traded sector, along with the $225 that's currently sitting there in the business park specific call for project pool. And if this is approved, we would literally be able to accept an application tomorrow and act under this agreement, because we have the dollars budgeted in this fiscal year.
Thank you.
Long answer to your short question.
Well, and there's been a long time where we've had this money sitting there. We would really like to have some businesses moving in, so let's incentivize it. And I do like that matrix. It's very clear to everyone. And I think having the URAC involved in the approval process gives a little bit of transparency and checks.
It was a really good discussion with the URAC.
I just have
this
one.
was a lot of work.
Just have one comment on the end of page 7. Do we still have computers with CD drives and DVD drives? Because most modern computers don't accept those anymore. Maybe we ought to scrap that as an acceptable media format for applications.
Where are you, Dave?
Bottom of page 7, second to last line. Sorry, this is a long page. There's multiple page 7s. Go to the last page 7. I'm like, wait a minute, there's a lot of page 7s. Just curious if we maybe want to consider that.
Oh, you're talking about draft, not the.
Oh, yeah, you're looking at the final version.
Yeah, the final version is,
Yeah, we can clean that up.
Just a thought, that you'd hate to get one in a CD format. We don't have a computer in the city to read it.
Yeah, we'll fix that.
All right. Any more
Just put
questions?
electronically or,
Yeah. But yes, there are still some that have this.
Any more questions for Mr. Bishop? Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite public comment. There are none. Agency discussion. Entertain a motion.
Move that the agency amend the traded sector business attraction incentive program policy to combine the call for projects funding dedicated to the business park with the traded sector incentive into a new program as presented. Or as amended, I should say.
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more additional agency discussion? All right, at this time, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Unanimous. All right, we will move on to our next new business, approving recommended changes to the call for project policies. Mr. Bishop.
Okay, well, this is our second piece tonight. This is the updates to the annual call for projects policy. And I would note that, again, this one is coming up. We are anticipating that we will open this year's call for projects funding cycle on March 13th. We did talk about a number of these potential revisions with the agency at our January 25th retreat. Also discussed some of these at length with the URAC committee at the URAC meeting work session on February 10th. A couple of key things in here. There are some updates to the general criteria. Again, we mentioned earlier, by combining the call for projects for the LeGrand Business and Technology Park applicants, we removed them from this document. So they are still eligible to apply, but it's now a separate fund that's identified or co-joined with that, with the new combined fund that we just approved. We've updated some clarifying language relating to the definition of binding quotes, addition to bids. We also talked a little bit about project readiness and clarified a couple of points on the agency scoring matrix to clarify that some of those points are discretionary. Again, I won't go through page by page, line by line, but hit a couple of those highlights. Again, we talked about removing the business technology park applicants now that they're part of that combined fund. When we come through here on page 3, if we look at our criteria, again, when we do the staff report is very quantifiable, but you as the agency, when you're doing your scoring, you will have the opportunity to award up to 5 points on each of those categories listed on page 4. We also cleaned up some language on page 6. A lot of this was just really striking some redundant language. We did try to kind of clean up and simplify some of the discussion here on allowed use of funds, particularly around things like HVAC and mechanical, so that, if they are required as part of a major renovation or an upgrade, so literally somebody is taking the building or the space completely back to the shell, they have to put in an entire new HVAC to make the space usable. That is different than, gee, I need to replace my HVAC because it's broken. That would be a repair. It would be different. So clarifying when those kinds of HVAC, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, when those are eligible, kind of cleaning that up a little bit. Again, same thing with prohibited use of funds. Interior improvements, item 10 here on the bottom of page 6. And unless directly related to an approved exterior project or part of a needed approved structural or accessibility improvement to the project, which require the removal and replacement of those interior improvements. And I think, again, the examples that we used several years ago when GC Fusion renovated their storefront and merged. Doing that and creating a new entryway, they had to pull up subflooring, create new flooring, had to move a wall. Because of those interior improvements were tied to the necessary changes to facilitate that exterior improvement. Those would continue to be eligible, but simply new carpeting, new flooring, putting in a devising wall to create new office spaces would not. So I think those are the big changes we made there. We did talk a little bit on the next page, page 8, we talked about really reiterating on item 12 that projects using urban renewal funds cannot then utilize special valuation or any other property tax incentive which negatively impacts the property tax value to the district. So we cleared that up, really kind of spelled that out a little bit more. Again, also in that same section item 13, specifically inserted language allowing us the opportunity to put a lien on a property as necessary. So I think those are the big changes. Happy again to answer any questions. Again, if you stump me, I may defer to district manager to bail me out on the tough ones.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Bishop? Thanks, sir. This time I will invite public comment. There is none. Agency discussion. Entertain a motion.
I move that the agency adopt the recommended changes to the urban renewal call for projects grant policy as recommended by the Urban Renewal Advisory Commission as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? And at this time, I will call for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Perfect. District manager comment.
Well, appreciate the support and the work of the URAC on getting this done. I'm really excited about the language changes, and hopefully we can actually get a taker on the traded section and get something built.
Hopefully. Agency member comments? Nope. All right. As the Urban Renewal Agency, we are adjourned. So at this time, do I need to reopen the council?
Yeah, you're going to reconvene the council, and then you're going to take us to executive session.
All right. At this time, we will reopen the city council meeting and we will step into executive session.
And the intent is not to reconvene.
Okay.
So we'll adjourn from that.
So, and with that, we're adjourned.
Well, we will adjourn later.
Thank you.
And we'll go back in the annex. I think.